everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kristen, and if you're new here, this is a corner of the internet where I come at you every other week or so and share what I've been making. I do a lot of crafting. I do knitting, spinning, crochet, weaving, sewing, bead weaving, quilting. Yeah, I do it all. So if you are multi-craftual, you're in a happy place. And today, I'm coming at you from my sunroom. It seems I'm moving all my crafts now into the sunroom. It's slowly but surely taking over the house, which may or may not be a good thing depending on how you look at it. I mean, clearly I'm happy about it. I'm ecstatic, but my husband, maybe not so much. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Today, clearly, we are doing some weaving. Ever since we adopted our puppy Willow, I have not really had time to indulge in, crafts that involve, spreading out and, just, you know what I'm talking about. So like weaving is an event. You've got to plan it out. It takes up a lot of space. It's not really portable. Even this tiny little rigid Heddle Loom, you've got to warp, you've got to make a warp, you've got to dress the loom. It's very involved. And again, since our puppy came into our life, I have not had the time. But today, she's being very good. She's currently sleeping in the kitchen, and I'm seizing the opportunity to have a little fun with my loom, specifically my Ashford 16-inch SampleIt rigid Heddle loom. And as you can see, I don't know how well you can see, but I'm currently in the process of dressing the loom. Traditionally, you do a technique called direct warping to dress the loom. So it's where you put a peg on the end of a long table and you basically walk back and forth, threading your loom with the yarn or whatever you're using to weave. But today I'm trying to do the complete opposite. So as opposed to direct warping, I'm trying to indirect warp my loom. And the benefits of indirect warping your loom versus direct warping is with direct warping, you are pretty much limited to however long your table is to walk back and forth. I mean, you can create a longer distance if you get a little MacGyver, if you create certain contraptions that can slide across the floor. Unfortunately, I'm not into that. So I'm trying to indirect warp my loom by creating a warp using a warping board, which I did. Here's my warp. It's 9 feet, and sadly I do not have a 9-foot long table at all. So if you are short on space and don't have a long table or surface to create your warp, you can always use a warping board to create a longer warp, which is what I've done here. So, I'm trying to manage the mischief by using some leaf sticks. I actually watched a really helpful tutorial from the School of Sweet Georgia, which is an online course or academy, if you will, hosted by Felicia Lowe of Sweet Georgia Yarns. And she shows you how to do that using some leaf sticks. Now, there's another way to do it where you don't have to use a leaf stick, but after you create your warp on the warping board, there's that the warp cross. I'm sure some of you have no idea what I'm talking about, but when you create a warp on your warping board, you're basically creating like a crisscross to maintain the infinite loop that you're creating. I hope that makes sense, but as long as you maintain that cross in your warp, your threads can never get tangled. I say that with a caveat, as long as you maintain that cross by tying your warp very well, which, knock on wood, I have done. So before I cut my ties, I made sure to insert the leaf sticks securely before cutting the ties. So we now have a secure warp on the loom, and I'm just threading my hand in this loop right here so I can see the cross right here by the leaf sticks and just pick off my next loop, making it easy to thread through the next slot, like so. And yeah, again, it looks like barf behind here, but honestly, everything is where it should be, and everything is in order and not tangled. This did not go so well the other day. I actually spent time making a warp using completely different yarn. And then I had watched a tutorial on YouTube, several tutorials, where instead of using leaf sticks, you're using your hands to maintain that cross, which works. But at the same time, for some reason, I got to the end point, the finish point, and the whole thing just turned into yarn barf. I don't know exactly how it happened. I was watching a method that clearly worked for somebody else, but did not work for me. So I'm so grateful that I stumbled on the School of Sweet Georgia. But just FYI, the School of Sweet Georgia is a subscription-based website. So you have to sign up, and I believe it's like $20 US a month. And then for that, you get full access to all the courses. I'm not sponsored at all, but I highly recommend it. So yeah, the pattern that I'm making is a pattern from Handwoven magazine. It is the Cirrus scarf by a designer I do not know off the top of my head, but I will put it here in the down bar. And I had this pattern on my metaphorical weaving queue. I wish there was a website like Ravelry for weaving. I mean, you can log your weaving projects on Ravelry, but it's not directed. It's not very geared towards weavers, Ravelry, unfortunately. It should be. There should be a section dedicated to weaving because there are a lot of weavers that post projects on Ravelry. Anyway, I digress. Where am I in here? Okay, I see. Here we go. Okay, so there's that. What was I talking about? I completely lost my train of thought, as I do with these things. But, oh yes, the project. So, yes, I'm making the Cirrus scarf, and it looks like plain weave, but then there's some honeycomb weave in it as well. So I'm threading it for plain weave, but then I'm also going to be inserting some pickup sticks to create the honeycomb pattern. And I'm using 2 different colorways of my hand-dyed yarn, Voolenvine yarns, in the Venus Flytrap colorway, which is this lovely, lush, leafy green, yellow. I want to say it airs on the side of golden green. It's one of my favorite colorways that I dye. And then a newish colorway that I haven't dyed in a while, Conservatory. I was actually inspired by some of the mansions that I visited when Dennis and we traveled to Newport, Rhode Island, where they have all the Gilded Age mansions there. And there was one room that was the conservatory where they had all these plants and the colors, and I was very inspired. So I dyed up a couple of colorways inspired by that trip, and this is one of them, conservatory. So I thought the 2 went hand in hand because conservatory is kind of like a very airy, botanical, speckled greens, pops of greens, golds. Yeah, very, very conservatory-esque, if you will. So I feel like I'm just rambling at this point, guys. You're keeping me company while I do this very, very mundane yet somehow meditative task of warping my rigid Heddle Loom. And yeah, the other thing that I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about is just knitting in general. Like, knitting is and forever will be my first love. My very first craft obsession was knitting. However, these days, the knitting bug, I just have not felt the urge to knit very often. Like, I actually cast on something last week that, I guess I'm working on it, but the drive isn't there. Like, knitting isn't scratching that itch for me these days. Lately, what did I just do? I just pulled something out of a slot. Come on. No stowaways. You get back in there. There we go. Okay, so yeah, knitting for some reason, I'm not feeling it, guys. I'm not feeling it. And you know what? That's okay, because I have all these other wonderful and amazing crafts calling out to me. But at the same time, I'm a hand dyer. I have a small business and I dye yarn for a living. And I have all these beautiful colorways that I want to use. And, I'm like, what? So that notion just kind of inspired this project. I'm like, it's been a while since I've actually been able to knit with my own hand-dyed yarns. And what perfect opportunity. The weaving bug strikes. Let's roll with it. And I thought this pattern, the Cirrus scarf, would be perfect for that. And the other thing, Dennis and we are supposedly heading out to Cape Cod next week. So I wanted a project that I could take with me to work on while we're, hanging out at the house and chilling. And yes, in case you're curious, Willow is coming with us. Frankly, I'm frightened. I'm scared, guys. She's still a puppy. She's 4 months old, not entirely trained. I mean, I will say she is potty trained for the most part. But the manners, we need to work on manners. She's jumping, she's nipping, she's barking. Right now you don't hear boo from her because she's passed out in the kitchen sleeping. But for the other times when she morphs into a velociraptor, things can get a little dicey. So, you know, it'll be an adventure. It's going to be an adventure, and of course I will report back, but it's should be very, very exciting. But yeah, I did want to warp up my loom and bring this with me so I could, you know, have some weaving to play with while I'm there. And yes, I will also be bringing some spinning. Spinning is another thing that has been bogarting my heart these days because, again, when we first adopted Willow, Dennis and I, we were tethered to our kitchen island for the most part, and I had to have, like, if I wanted to craft, I had to have like these small compact crafts that I could, you know, easily pick up and put down, and spinning was one of those things. So there you go. So, okay guys, I'm just about done threading this, and I'm really, really excited. So the next step, once this is all done, hopefully no tangle fairies will attack, and I can get on with the next step, which is slotting some of the warp through the holes. And again, it's just all gonna be plain weave and Bob's your uncle. So yeah, I'm excited, guys. Okay, so let me finish this and I will come back on the other end.
Two hours later.
One of my problems is that I don't read patterns all the way through. I just have a problem following instructions, apparently. So I usually get ahead of myself, and before I know it, I'm like, something's not working out. So that's when I go back to that pattern and reevaluate and realize, oh yeah, I probably should have read the pattern through. Long story short, the pattern says that you have to start and end your threading in a hole. So in the reed, there are slots and there are holes, and you're supposed to thread starting in a hole and ending in a hole. And I started in a slot and ended in a slot. So thankfully, there is an easy remedy for that. You know, you don't have to, I mean, I could, if I really wanted to torture myself, I could have took everything out and rethreaded, but why do that? Instead, I added some floating selvages. At the edge of my warp, I've got these two dangling warp ends that are being weighed down by some S-hooks, which you can get at your local hardware store. Really, really handy. Now all that's left to do is just weave a couple of picks of plain weave, and then I can start this honeycomb pattern, which is an adventure in its own because I have never worked with pickup sticks before. So as you can see, I've got a pickup stick here, and I have another pickup stick over here that I've got to use at some point. That's going to be interesting. I'm a little scared. I know it's going to be fine. It might be a little trial and error, but we will make it work. Clearly, we have a warped loom. It's beautiful. It's even. It looks wonderful. I'm very, very happy. And to be honest, going forward, I think I'm gonna do indirect warping when working with my rigid Heddle Loom because I just found it so much more pleasant. So definitely, you know, if you have been direct warping your rigid Heddle Loom and you find it a little cumbersome, definitely look into indirect warping. So yay, new technique under my belt, achievement unlocked. I'm stoked, and yeah, I now have a fun weaving project to take with me on our trip next week. So excited. I will put this down, take a break, and come back to it tomorrow with a refreshed mind. But yeah, otherwise, you know, I have my boat shuttles right here. This is my Ashford boat shuttle. I have two, and I have some bobbins that are wound over here. Clearly, these are not all the bobbins I'm gonna need for the entire project. I will have to wind some more, but you know, I've got my nice little nook carved out for me here in this sunroom, although the sun is slowly but surely dipping its head for the day. So yeah, it is time for Kristen to take a little break from weaving. Actually, come to think of it, I think the puppy, I think Willow needs needs to go outside and take a walk. So I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you so much, as always, for hanging out with me. Again, if you're new here, I'm so happy to have you. Feel free to like and subscribe down below. I'm putting out videos for your viewing pleasure every other week or so. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do that by subscribing and becoming a paid member over on my Substack, or becoming a paid member on YouTube, whatever. Pick your poison. Your support helps me keep the lights on and creating content like this for you guys, and it means so, so much. And I would also be lying if I said that your support didn't also help me support my raging crafting addiction. So you are the best. Until the next video, I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Happy crafting, happy making, and I will see you soon. Bye.